Okay, so let's go over some of these answers here to the multiple choice 2016 module 1. So question 1 here, I already went through and put in whenever x is 2. Not totally sure why there's these little bars here, these little squares here next to the x's there. So just ignore them. They some sort of issue whenever we converted it over to a PDF. But anyways, I went through and put 2 in for everywhere I saw x and then simplified it down. And the only one that would really work here is this guy right here, letter B, because whenever you take 2 square roots of 20 and you simplify that down, 20 can be broken down into 4 times 5. Square root of 4 is another 2, and 2 times 2 is 4 on the outside with a 5 there. These two can be eliminated right away because there's a 5 in the outside, which is too big. On to the next problem. Breaking this guy down, I know one of the monomials was 3x to the fourth y, and I know what the GCF is. And remember, GCF, that G and the F, think good friends. And good friends have something in common. So at least I know, based on this here, that I need to have an x squared in common. So knowing that, I was able to eliminate pretty much everything but B. Final answer. Going through and looking at this guy, this problem has a lot of big numbers in it. So take some time and go through and think about what it means. If you're given a distance and then you know what the average speed of that light was per second. So I divided those out initially going through the information from the sun to Mercury, figured out it was 193 seconds and divided it by 60 to figure out how many minutes that would be. Did the same thing then for Saturn. I mean, this just becomes a calculator problem. You actually have to stop and think about what it is. Am I dividing? Am I multiplying? Remember, make it into something easier if you're not 100% sure. Make it into numbers that you know. You know that it's 100 miles from here to your grandma's and you're traveling at a speed of 50 miles per hour. How many hours is it going to take you to get there? 100 divided by 50 would give you that too. So, make it into something that you know that you can figure out, am I multiplying or dividing? So now you can apply it with the bigger numbers there. I just went through and rounded. And remember, it's asking, what is the best answer here? What is the closest estimate? The closest estimate is going to be a B. On number 4 here, I want to point out that there is a minus sign here between these guys here. So whenever you're going through and you're combining like your terms, your 3x squared minus a negative x squared. If you do a keep change on that, 3x squared minus a negative 1x squared, you're going to go through and actually realize that you are adding those guys together. I forgot a squared on that. So that eliminates A and B right away. So I'm down to C and D, and then I keep going through with that problem then. Then I go through and I do my 2x and my 6x here, but again, it's 2x minus 6x here, which gives me the negative 4x, which is why I can eliminate C. D is your best answer. Love this problem. You should be done with this problem in 2 seconds because we know we have a start, we see we have a rate there, and they just want to know what is the formula. Your best answer there is A. Problem 6, they show you some information and they want you to go through and figure out what is that missing step. So hopefully you realize what's going on there. And by looking at all 4 answer choices, we can eliminate A and B because of that being the associative property. We know that's wrong. So we go down to the distributive property being our 2 answers. And then we actually go through and see that if you're actually using the distributive property, it would be option D and not C because C didn't show us using the distributive property correctly. Again, another problem where we see a start and a rate of change. So we have this equation describing how many words she knew in X days. So they tell you what an answer is. And remember, they're telling you X is days and Y is words. So what does that solution mean? That means we've got 6, think about what your labels are. 6 days, 48 words. So going through and looking at the only ones that have 6 days are this guy and this guy. Okay, but the only ones that have the 48 words with them would be this guy that matches that. That guy, A, is incorrect. For this problem, they're giving you and describing you a system without giving you the system. And they want you to, again, they don't necessarily ask you to come up with a solution. You can. But if you stop and you think about what's going on here, we know that Christine sells a total of 50 tickets to the school play. So if X is the number of student tickets and Y is the number of adult tickets, we know that the setup here is X plus Y equals 50. So we had to come up with that X and Y, what they were representing. And again, we go through and we say, well, if you wanted to set it up, you could say, well, it's $1.50 per student ticket, $4 per adult ticket. She makes a total of $112.50 in ticket sales. You can solve it if you want. They're not asking you to. They're asking which statement best describes the solution. So you're going to end up with an answer for X and an answer for Y, some sort of numbers. But remember what those labels are. Those labels are about the number of student tickets and the number of adult tickets. B, C, and D do not describe the number of student tickets and adult tickets sold. The only one that does that is A. For number 8, you have to read carefully on this. They give you some information about a plain pizza taking 10 minutes. At least 2 minutes of baking time is required for each ounce of toppings added to the pizza. So they give you some information where you say, well, it takes 18 minutes for a pizza, at least 18 minutes, and at most 26 minutes. So if it's 18 minutes, that means there were 4 ounces of toppings, right? Because it was an additional 8 minutes plus from that initial 10, so that meant there were 4 ounces of toppings. And if it was 26 minutes, that means there were 8 ounces of toppings. So knowing that, I can eliminate A and B. C and D are basically exactly the same except those circles. Remember, an open circle means it's not included, while a closed circle means that it is included. Okay, it's part of the solution. So when we think about going back and reading that statement a little more careful, that the total baking time is at least 18 minutes. So that means if it's at least 18 minutes, it's including 18 minutes. So that's why C is your best answer there, because we want to make sure that the 4 ounces it's a closed circle. Okay, on number 10, they give you some information here. Again, they're giving you some information about plan A, plan B, and they basically set it up for you. They give you what inequality to use, and if you go through and you solve that, you see that C is greater than 40, or 40 is less than C. What that means then is that 40 cleanings, C was describing the number of cleanings. At 40 cleanings, plan A and plan B would basically be the same. So if I want to have more than 40 cleanings, plan A is going to be best. Okay, or if I have less than 40 cleanings, plan B is going to be best. So when you go through and you look at your answer choices here, you have to read through them carefully. So the best one that describes this is going to be answer B. Okay, in question 11, and this type of question comes up in every type of sampler packet, and you're going to see something like this. So they give you a lot of information about Kelly and her business trip. They tell you she's going to spend no more than 5 nights on the trip. So you really have to go through and figure out what is the important information here. So no more than 5 nights on the trip. They tell you that a hotel in Hartford will cost $90 and a hotel in Boston is $120 a night. And she wants to spend no more than $540 for hotel stays. So really, this is a system. The part of those, they don't tell you what the system is. I mean, you can write it if you want to, so we can see that the number of nights in Hartford plus the number of nights in Boston, where X and Y is Hartford and Boston. You can see I labeled all of my axes there. Needs to be less than or equal to 5 because she wants to spend no more than 5 nights. And you can do the same thing and come up with your second equation where it's 90 nights per hotel in Hartford and $120 per night in Boston, and that needs to be less than or equal to $540. But if you remember, solving a system of inequalities is a lot of guess and check or a graph. Funny how they gave you 4 graphs to pick from. So they just want you to go through and say, well, which graph represents the possible combinations of nights she can spend in Hartford and Boston? So stop and look at it. Remember, that shaded area is representing all the possible solutions. These are describing the number of nights. So if I just look at what my solution area is showing here, any point in the solution area should work. So if I pick a point here in this guy right here, in A. That means 6 nights in Hartford and 6 nights in Boston. Well, she only wants to spend 5 nights or less, so A can be eliminated. If I look at B, a solution in B could be this point right here, where she's spending 6 nights in Hartford and no nights in Boston. But again, I want to spend less than 5 nights, eliminates B. If I go over to C and D, these guys are looking better. Because if I look at C, I can see this tiny little area up here is showing me that she spends 5 nights in Boston and no nights in Hartford. Okay, so C is still in contention, and D is still in contention because basically any point in here still works as well, where 2 nights in Hartford, 1 night in Boston satisfies that. So now if I go through and I think about my other restraint, my other piece of information here, if I go through now and say, well, if she spends 5 nights in Boston, okay, that's what this letter C is showing me. If I put 5 back into my inequality here in this guy here, Boston was $120 a night. Well, 120 times 5 is definitely not less than $540. So C gets eliminated because of that, and D is your best answer. And then question 12 in module 1 here gives you again some information and system of inequalities, giving you information about the donuts, and they want you to go through and again, which statement best describes the meaning of the solution. They give you a solution. They tell you X is the number of glazed donuts and Y is the number of chocolate donuts. So just going through and looking at these solutions, I eliminated B and D right away because B and D, we're talking like $100 from glazed donuts. It wasn't about the dollars. This $100 is the number of glazed donuts. Okay, D got eliminated because whenever I went through and realized that I was talking about 100 glazed donuts and 100 chocolate donuts, whenever I plugged these guys back into the inequality, I didn't make exactly $60. It only made $58. So the best answer was option A.